The padlock on the cabin door was rusted shut, and I stood there in the cold Montana night with 2 suitcases and a cheap flashlight I'd bought miles back, wondering how my life had fallen apart so completely. My name is Emily Carter, and just 2 weeks earlier, I had lost everything in a divorce that left me with nothing but a small settlement and an old cabin in Lakewood that my grandfather, Henry Carter, had left me years ago. My ex-husband, Daniel Brooks, walked away with the house I had decorated, the cars we had chosen together, and even the savings I had helped build. I remember sitting on my friend Megan's couch the morning of the hearing, trying to convince myself it would somehow be fair, but it wasn't. His lawyer spoke confidently about his income and contributions, while mine barely said a word, and within minutes, the life I had spent years building was handed over to him like it had never been mine. The only thing I kept was the cabin, an old, quiet place no one thought was worth anything. So I drove north with everything I owned packed into 2 suitcases and ended up standing in front of a door I couldn't even open. After breaking the rusted lock, I stepped inside and was hit with the familiar scent of cedar and dust, like my grandfather had never really left. The cabin was exactly the way I remembered it. His books still lined the shelves, his old couch still sagging in the middle, and his paintings hanging quietly on the walls. That first week was hard in ways I didn't expect. I cleaned, I cried, and I tried to make the place livable again, eating canned food and fixing what I could with the tools he had carefully left behind. It felt like survival, not healing. But on the 7th night, while wiping down one of his paintings above the fireplace, I noticed it shift. Curious, I took it down and found a sealed envelope taped behind it, my full name written across the front in his handwriting. Inside was a letter and a small brass key. The letter led me to a bank in a nearby town called Millbrook, where I met an attorney named Michael Hayes who told me something I could hardly believe. My grandfather hadn't just left me the cabin, he had spent decades quietly buying land around the lake, piece by piece, until he owned hundreds of acres. Land worth millions. No one knew about it because it was all hidden under a trust he had carefully set up years before he died. Not my family, not the court, and definitely not Daniel. As I sat there going through the documents, my hands shaking, I realized the man I thought I knew had been planning this for years, protecting something for me I didn't even know existed. But things didn't stay quiet for long. A development company had been trying to buy land around the lake for a massive resort project, and it turned out the missing piece they needed was exactly what my grandfather owned. And the man behind that project? He wasn't a stranger. He was connected to Daniel. That's when everything clicked. The divorce, the way I was left with nothing, it wasn't just bad luck. It was strategy. If I had been desperate enough, I would have sold the cabin and the land without ever knowing its true value. But I wasn't that person anymore. Instead of selling, I met with the developers and listened carefully, just like my grandfather would have. I learned what the land was truly worth, not just in money, but in power. And in the end, I made my own decision. I didn't sell a single acre. I kept everything and negotiated a long-term deal that secured my future while protecting what my grandfather had built. The same land that everyone dismissed as worthless became the very thing that changed my life. Now, when I sit on the porch of that cabin and watch the lake, I finally understand what my grandfather meant all those years ago. Patience isn't about waiting, it's about knowing what you're waiting for. Moral lesson. Life sometimes takes everything away to show you what truly matters. Never underestimate your worth, and never rush into decisions when you're at your lowest, because your biggest opportunity might be hidden where you least expect it. Question for you. If you were in my place, would you have sold the land for millions, or kept it and taken control of your future? Note: this is just an imaginative, fictional story, created for inspiration and storytelling purposes. It is not based on a real person or real events.